Thanks a lot, Anbu, for introducing me, and it's a great pleasure to be here at the first Hash Talks for India, and to be presenting a topic as well. And yeah, so I actually got interested with HashiCorp right after I finished college, so it has a special spot in my mind, and I have grown as much as HashiCorp itself has grown over the years. So I've seen its growth, and it has been an amazing toolset right now in the midst of cloud itself, and we use it actually a lot, and that's I use it almost daily, and that's a pretty good pretty interesting part of my work life balance. And so yeah, my topic is actually listening to Spotify Terraform, so which might sound a little different, but it's actually nothing but how to build a custom provider for Terraform and use it. And you can actually, it's Terraform is so extensible that you can pretty much build a provider for whichever API you have, as long as you have a robust API and a client library to go with it. So that's why it's a little quirky to Spotify itself. So before we go on and I'll just introduce myself shortly. So yeah, as you know, I'm Karthik. I'm an associate DevOps architect at Preslio. We actually work with customers and provide infrastructure-based solutions and cloud-native solutions. And we work with Terraform and HashiCorp products a lot. And you can also find me on social media, which I've shared with the slides. And one more thing is, I'm actually the organizer of the HashiCorp user group's Chennai chapter. We have actually over 900 members and still going strong. It's a ever learning community, which I'm very happy to be a part of. And yeah, without further ado, we'll just move into the topic. So I just want to give a little bit of intro to people who are joining new, who are not that much familiar with Terraform but are looking forward to. So Terraform providers are actually an integral part of how Terraform itself works. For people who might have used Terraform on a beginner level, they would know that for whichever service that you want to use, so like for example AWS or GCP, or even something like a DNS service like Cloudflare or something like that. For every service that they want to use with Terraform, they need to install its own provider. So that provider will extend Terraform's functionality to be able to interact with those particular services and provision infrastructure, not just infrastructure, pretty much any sort of resource that the particular service offers. So that's integral part of Terraform as and when it is right now. And if you go to a pretty logical explanation, providers are essentially an abstraction of the API itself that is provided by the service. So as long as whichever service you actually want to interact with, you just need to have an API, a working solid API for the service. And if it also has a client library built on that API, it makes your life even simpler. If not, you can just go ahead and build your own client library. It's not a big deal. But yeah, as long as a particular service exposes API, you can do it. It doesn't even need to be a public API. It can be internal to your organization. You can build your own custom product for your organization and use it internally. You don't even need to expose it. As long as the product is able to access the API, that's all it matters. And that's how all of the components that we have right now work. Like all the popular components like AWS, Azure, and GCP, Kubernetes, they're all built on the same singular concept. So this is like pretty much the, I guess, the first piece of code anyone who is going to go look into Terraform will be writing their provider definitions. Once you write a provider definition and provide the configurations inside the definition, you'd be able to pretty much initialize your Terraform provider and then build up resources and data sources from that. So that's how, everyone knows this, right? So, but what's underneath this? What's underneath the actual product definition? So, what's happening behind the screens, and how is it that Terraform is able to make a such an good abstraction and make it intuitive, so that people find it so easy to work with it. So, yeah, this is how it will actually look like underneath a provider. So, when you're going to build a provider, this is how you'll go. You'll be structuring your code, and this pretty much states the extensibility of Terraform itself in a single simple diagram. So your providers are built with Terraform's own plugin SDK that allows us to write our own providers. And that pretty much take care of all the complexities that Terraform provides. Like for example, state management. The state management part of it is not something that we need to write for every provider. The plugin SDK will automatically take care of it. You need only define your resources and what are the attributes that enforce replacements and things like that. That's the only thing you actually need to define. The complexity of state management, that's handed off to the plugin SDK itself. And as for the actual API part of like creating a resource or updating a resource or deleting a resource, that's as simple as making a simple API call. That's it. You are just abstracting the API call using this plugin SDK and providing your own provider. So it's as simple as that, and anyone can do it as long as they have an API for the service that they want to try it out. So there are a lot of providers out there which are built for fun too. For example, you might have heard of the Philips Hue lights. So those Hue lights actually have an API you can interact with, and there is a Terraform provider which actually makes use of it. So you can actually automate your home. You can build your smart home automation system with Terraform. So that's how extensible it is. You can try it pretty much for anything, and that's why I found it to be very fun, and I thought of bringing that to HashiTalk so that people can get introduced to building providers in a cool and fun way, rather than starting out with the core technical concepts itself. So that's why I chose Spotify. So because I actually listen to Spotify a lot, I listen to it a lot during work too. So I thought, what if I could actually control my Spotify interactions without actually going to Spotify itself using Terraform? So this is how it started out. So full disclosure, before we actually go into Spotify provider, I would like to state that there is actually a community provided documentation for Spotify, built by a different developer actually. That person has actually worked with Terraform to document his whole of the resources, and you can go ahead and get started there. That's actually a simpler guide with iterative documentation published as well. So mine is actually a different iteration of the same Spotify provider. Mine has little different functionalities and a little different authentication mechanisms. But underneath, they both use the same API library and the API underlying Spotify API itself. So that's how it will work. And as usual, this is not just for Spotify. As I mentioned before, it's for any provider that you want to build. You just need to have a solid REST API and a client library built on top of it. Preferably, if it's in Golang, it's much easier because then it will be easier for you to extend your plugin SDK because that's also written in Go. But that's up to you. So this comes to my actual Spotify provider definition. My authentication mechanism works based on the authentication token that we receive. It's a pretty simple one. You just need to get the token from developer console. Spotify offers one, which we'll see in the upcoming demo. And once you get the access token, you just need to put it into the Spotify provider definition. As long as you do that, you should be able to configure any resources. That's pretty much the only configuration you need. We don't need anything else. And I'll just talk about some of the data sources that I have versioned. So one of them is the ability to search a Spotify album. So everything inside Spotify is given a unique ID, and the ID is the based on ID is the one we use to search or look into albums and things like that when we are accessing through the API. So I have built my data sources and resources on the same model. You pass the ID of the particular album or particular user, whoever you want to look at, a particular playlist, a particular track, then you get the necessary details for it. And the Terraform provider itself and the plugin SDK is so extensible that you just need to extend provider configuration, and there is a pre-written schema for both resource and data sources. You just need only implement the schema and then write your resources and data sources and explain their conditions. What are the attributes they take? What are the outputs they produce? You just need to define those and map those to the JSON structure of the returned API's post calls. So that's pretty much the everything you need. This works not just for Spotify, but for anything that you want to implement as a provider. So this similarly, you have some of resource players. Data sources are easier to write in Terraform. So I would suggest like people who are looking to get started with data sources and then move on to resources, because resources have an entire life cycle. Data sources do not. Data sources simply only have the read cycle. So you just get data and print it. That's pretty much what you do. And if on subsequent API calls, if the data is updated, that will automatically be updated by the data source called inside Terraform itself. There isn't actually a complete life cycle you have to manage. Life cycle in state management actually comes into play only when you consider resources. So resources have to be created, updated, and then deleted. So this will play into the whole Terraform state management lifecycle as we have seen till now. For example, cloud providers like AWS, Azure, all of them play by the same mechanism. So there are some constraints that you need to take care of. For example, if you are updating a particular attribute of a resource, does the resource simply needs to have an update call, or does it actually need to be replaced? It needs to be destroyed and recreated. So these are the things that you need to. So there are some nuances that you need to take care of when you're actually building resources. So Terraform offers pretty much, the whole entity of all the help you need is already offered in the SDK. You just need to figure out what you actually need to do. And even that, if you have an API, you would already know. For example, if you're building a Spotify playlist, let's say you have tracks that you actually want to add to a playlist. If you're going to add tracks, it means that on the further updates, if you're going to add new tracks, it will actually going to make an update call. So there'll already be an update call in the Spotify's API, which allows you to update the tracks of an existing playlist. If you're making use of it, then you actually don't need to force any replacement here. It's just going to make an update call. There is actually no need to replace anything. But in some cases, you might need to consider those. Those are some extra nuances that you need to take care of. As long as you have a strong API, that makes the product development as much easier. So yeah, I'll just get started with the demo now. I'll just show you guys what I have written as a provider and how it works. So yeah. So as I said, to get started with a provider, you need an API. Spotify has its own developer console where people can go ahead and sign up for a developer account. And once you sign up inside it, you can actually go and look at the documentations. Here is the API documentation for Spotify's own API. As you can see, it has pretty much everything that you need you actually do via your Spotify's app, including playback controls. Everything's actually present as an API. You can actually pause and play songs. You can play song from a particular device. You can pause songs from a particular device. Pretty much do anything you can do via Spotify app using the actual console's API. So I made use of some of these APIs and then developed my resources and data sources. So one of the important part of provider is that we need to configure authentication, right? And there are actually multiple ways you can authenticate for any such application. Spotify actually provides two different mechanisms. I have made use of the later one because it provided me a simpler way to get started, which is using the access token that you can actually get from Spotify's own developer console. So once you actually go to a console, it will actually, it's sort of like a Swagger where you can generate requests that you can test out along with the authentication tokens. So I have configured my provider such that you need only get this token and configure it inside the provider. That will pretty much allow you to use the provider as is. And whenever you want to get a token, there are scopes that you can define so that your token you're generating will only allow you to perform those options which are inherently accessible by the scopes. You can see these are the scopes available. So when you want to pretty much do everything you want with the user, you just need only select the user scopes. If you want to modify a playlist, you select playlist. You want to modify your profile's image, there is a separate scope for that. And if you want to modify your playlist, there's a separate one for that. So whichever scopes you want, you can actually choose them and then request a token for it. So as soon as you request a token, you'll be getting an authentication token generated here right away. You can take this token and configure it inside your provider. So this is a sample code that I have written to show you guys how the provider works. Once I've shown this, I will also show you how I've written the provider itself. So as you can see, we have the provider definition here and some data sources and some resources. So yeah. So you just copy the token and paste it. One more thing is, once you develop your provider, you can actually publish it to the Terraform's own registry. But before publishing, if you want to test it in the local, you just need only create a binary for the Terraform provider and then put it inside your Terraform plugin folder. Ideally at the root location of your Terraform binary installation, because all of the plugins that you install will automatically get stored there. So if you want to test a manual plugin, you can actually go and store it there. It will be symlinked to every Terraform code module that you have.
Hey Karthik, sorry to disturb you. I don't think you're sharing your code, like the code screen, maybe.
Okay, sorry about that. Just trying to sync it in. So can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I think that we can see it again.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, here it is. Here is a simple module which has a certain function that you can test out using the data sources and resources based on the Spotify provider I have written. So here you can provide the authentication token. Once you provide it, it's pretty much simple as all this data sources and resources we have seen. So here is a data for Spotify album, and you provide album's ID. So from these, you can pretty much get everything. You can get the album's name, release date. You can get the tracks inside the album, everything. And then Spotify's current user request. So this actually gets based on the token that you provide. This token is actually based on your profile, right? So from this, it will actually gather the information about your profile itself. And similarly, there are other things as well. For resources, there is the Spotify playlist. You can actually go ahead and create a playlist and add tracks to it. And of course, there are outputs. So we'll just see how it works right now. And then we'll go ahead and see how the provider code that actually provisions this Spotify provider is written. So I'm just going to access my terminal so that people can see it. So I'm going to initialize this. So as you can see, I have copied over my provider to this plugin folder. This is my provider actually, provider binary, and it's present there. And once I initialize it, it's actually initialized and authenticated. Let's see if we can run a plan. All right. So once we have done a plan, you can see what are things that are going to get created. We are only creating one resource. Rest of all those things are data sources, and we have certain outputs, right? So we have the resource that's going to be created. This is all provided as part of plugin SDK. We are actually not doing anything specific in our provider code to, provide a Terraform plan, provide a graph with the dependencies. The dependency management, state management, ordering of the resources, parallelism, all those come built in with the plugin SDK. So we don't actually need to do it. So Hashgraph has done so good a job there. It makes our life as much simpler to write any product that we want. We need only define our APIs and how our resources will work. So as you can see, there is going to be a resource that's going to be created, and there are certain outputs that we are printing. Those outputs are also changed. So those are printed. Let's try applying. Okay. Okay. Yes. All right. So you can see that our resource is added, and it has its own unique ID assigned as per state management. And here are certain outputs. So those outputs are from our data sources. So you can see that the output album name is from the Spotify album that we are searching for, and its release date. And from our current user, we are actually fetching the user's display name and the user's endpoint and country and user subscription. So bear in mind, I just want to say some. For example, if you want to build resources and data sources that will help control your playback. So like pause, play, move to the next song, previous song, check for devices. Those things actually require a premium account from Spotify. But other than that, so everything that's going to be authenticated and linked to your particular user, your particular device, those things need require a premium account. But others that are accessible to the public, like creating a public playlist, viewing a person's profile from the public endpoint, those things can be done without use of any premium account. So you can see my current subscription, even my subscription, my users API endpoint, country, everything is printed right away from the output. So as the resource was created, let's go ahead and look at Spotify to see if it's actually present. Okay. All right. So here it is, hashtag playlist. It has been created. Um, the description is hashtag playlist. As you can see, that's the description we have here. It's public. So people, if you guys actually want to try and access it, it's actually accessible right now. It's public. You can search for it. It was created under my profile. So you can see my profile here as well, which we can confirm from the current user. So that's it. You can actually create playlists and manage them using your Terraform code. You can destroy them, pretty much do everything you want, right? Okay. All right. So playlist has been destroyed. Let's see if we can refresh it and see if a playlist comes up again or not. Okay. I think it's taking time for it too. So while it actually comes up, I'll just show you guys a piece of the code that I have written as well, so that how we can see how a Terraform provider will look like and how you can go about writing it. So as usual, Terraform actually provides a scaffolding repository, which I'll be linking together in the end of the documentation in presentation that I have shown you. From the scaffolding repository, you can actually use the template and build a provider of your own. I have built it in the same way. I've used the scaffolding repository and then built my own provider. So when you're building a provider, you can essentially you need to do something like this, right? So you only need the following Go modules. Just need a Terraform plugin SDK. And for generating your documentations, the documentation that is published along with every provider that is available in Terraform's registry, those can also be automatically generated. You need only do a simple step, which I'm going to show you right now. And then the API client for the Spotify's, Spotify's API. This is the Golang client library, and OAuth2 for authentication mechanism if you want. And so then you go ahead, and the first step you do is actually initialize the provider's configuration. So you extend the schema of the provider that's already provisioned from the plugin SDK, and then you set up the provider configuration. Provider configuration meaning what are the attributes that the provider itself is going to accept. So you can see I have actually two forms of authentication which I normally use. One is a client ID and client secret. When people, this is similar to how AWS uses different forms of authentication mechanism. You can either use this one or that one. It's like you can use either access token or you can use client ID and client secret, which Spotify does allow. You can actually go and create a third-party app in Spotify and get its client ID and client secret and use that to authenticate. Or you can use access token too, whichever one you want. And for you might have seen in many number of providers that if you're not providing a certain type of configuration, provider will automatically go and look for certain folders or directories where the credentials may be present. For example, in AWS's case, it's the AWS folder where it will go and look for credentials, or it will look for certain environment variables too. So those environment variables can actually be defined under this default schema's default function that's provided. You need not actually go of your way to do anything. You just say the multiple environment variables. If there are more than one, you can specify the order in which they have to be looked for, and you just need to provide the environment variable name itself. It will go ahead and look for that. If your client ID or client secret, the credentials are not provided with the product definition, then you create a data sources map. So the data sources map consists of what are the data sources you have defined for your provider. So it will be a map of a string and then a function, or so each function will be defined. I have defined it in its own Go file, so it makes it simpler and easy to use. And whenever you're actually starting out, the thing I would recommend is go take a look at providers that have been robustly written in provider. For example, in my use case, I actually looked at the AWS and Google's provider to understand how they are being written and how robust they are and what are the best practices they follow. That will give you an idea of what you need to do in case of your own provider. So here is the data sources name, and then the function. It's basically going to expand its own lifecycle inside the function there. So here are all those different data sources. We have one for fetching an album, one for fetching the user. User meaning we can give the user's ID or name. It can fetch the user details, and you can fetch the current user, which you don't actually need to provide anything. It will be from your profile, so you don't actually need to provide any details. You can actually build data sources to pause and play. When you're actually playing something, you can actually run your Terraform code to pause that particular song or track. and you can list a number of player devices. Pretty much everything in data source is actually you can map it to the get functions in the API. So whatever details you want to get, you can whichever APIs are available for it, you can write a data source for it. That's how much lenient Terraform's product is. And then here is a resource map. So I have done two resources. One is to control Terraform volume, and another is to create or manage a playlist. So then you provide the context for the product, and pretty much this handles the product installation along with the data sources and resources. So this context, like configuration, this allows how authentication should be taken place and which client is used. So this will basically set up a client which will be used across these different data sources and resources. That client will interact with the API and then fetch the resources that we need. And we'll be mapping the JSON results to the provider itself. It's like to provider's data sources and resources. So I give like a lot of scopes which I need. You can actually, for example, this can actually move to a configuration part of your provider. In provider, you can define an attribute called scopes and then use that to provide the scopes so that they're dynamic and they're not static. So you'll granularize the permissions. So let's take a look at how one of our data sources is written. We looked at our album data source in our example. We'll see how it's actually written. So here is the function. You can see that so both the schema of resource is what we normally use. Like both data sources and resources are actually extended from the resource schema. The only difference is that their lifecycle varies. Wherein a data source only has a read operation, a resource will have more than one, like create, basically all the code operations, create, read, update, and delete, all the 4 operations. So you can extend the same resource schema, but you only need to change the type of operation that you're going to add or remove the type of operation you perform. So here is the read operation. I have actually added a function to perform that as well. And then you create a schema for it. Inside this, inside the actual schema, what you're going to define is what are the attributes which are going to trade and what are the attributes which it's going to produce. So those attributes can be required. So for example, you can see that ID is required. Without the ID, the data source will not work. So it's required. Some can be optional because if one attribute is present, another attribute need not be present. In those cases, this required key can be exchanged for something called optional key. Then you provide a description of it to understand what it's actually what the attribute is. Then once the data source actually works, it will actually produce certain attributes. Those are computed values. So for those values, you need only set that computed to be true. So once you set the computed to be true, these are not values that were fed in by the user to the data source. They're actually produced by the data source after it's being applied by Terraform. Same goes for resources too. They will also have computed values. So then let's see how the read operation actually takes place. Because the data source only need only have read operation. Let's see how it works. So here's the data source read operation. We obviously pause the Spotify client we initialize way back in the product configuration. And what we do is we do a client's get album. So this Spotify client is actually from the Spotify library we saw back in the Go in our Go module definitions. And we just use the say get album function. It's already present. We actually don't need to do anything. We just need to pass the required parameters. So in this case, the ID is the required parameter. We can see that we pass the return data schema object from the function we actually initialize. So you can that's actually being passed here, and from there you can get the ID and convert it if you need be to a particular data type and pass it. And if there are errors, that's actually it will actually be returned directly. This error will be logged in your Terraform console as the output if there are if something goes wrong. If there is no error, which means our get request worked fine and the results are returned. So now we actually need to map the results to the computed values we have in your Terraform data series. We go ahead and do that by simply setting the data resource data schema object to the particular attributes. So we have these values, take those value keys, and then here is the returned object from our actual get call. JSON maps, or we actually create structures for these objects to ensure that proper JSON schema is followed. So we don't need to do the mapping by ourselves. That's automatically taken care of, right? And that's one of the advantages of using Go as well. So we provide the album.name. We map that to the name. We map the release date to the release date attribute, and we set the ID. So this ID, this is important because this is what actually manages the life cycle. This ID is the one that's in some cases returns album IDs are unique, so we can actually map that to our ID. Otherwise, in some cases, we need to generate a unique string and use it. So this ID will be used in our state management to manage the life cycle of the resource. This life cycle itself will be a particular resource will be identified by this particular unique ID. In our case, each album has its own unique ID itself. So we are setting the that ID, album's ID, to the ID of the Terraform resource or data source. So that's as simple as that. And let's take a look at resources. Resources are pretty much the same as data sources. Only thing is it has more life cycles. It has create, update, delete, and read. So we need to perform all those 4 operations. For example, you go into a playlist. You pretty much define the same thing. You define the schema. You define what are the required values, what are the optional values. We provide we can actually also provide a default value to something if it's optional, and computer values. That's pretty much it. So then you go ahead and create each function for a particular lifecycle. For create lifecycle, like operation, read operation, update operation, or delete operation. Each one has its own function. And then, so you create its own function, you use the client, and you perform whatever operation that you need. And so right now we are creating a playlist for a user. We perform that operation, and then we pretty much return the results. We set the output values. That's pretty much all we need to do. Same goes for everything. And if you're building a complex provider, these functions will be reused across multiple instances where multiple complex resources are interacting with one another. In those scenarios, you can actually reuse these functions as long as you written them in a modularized manner, which will save you a lot of code in the future as well. And this is pretty much how the entirety of Terraform product creation, data source creation goes. So once you do this, you have your provider ready, right? So then you actually also need to write documentation for your provider. So for that, as long as you just need to create a document folder where you can go ahead and create data sources folder and resource folder. And then for each of your resource, you can go ahead and create a markdown resource for it. So this markdown will actually be published when you publish your provider to the Terraform registry. You don't actually need to write anything different. You just need to document everything in a markdown file that will automatically be published. You actually don't need to do any extra steps as well. You just need to only document them properly here. And there are, of course, tests that you need to write with your provider definition to ensure that the provider resource and data source work as you intend and tests are being passed properly. And that's pretty much it. In the main, we actually serve the plugin with the Spotify provider client initialized. That's pretty much only thing you need to do. So once you do these things, you have your own product built from scratch that performs certain basic operations. But you can go ahead and expand your product to incorporate pretty much everything that your API does. Your product's limit is only the limit of your own API itself. So you can do everything you want.
Hey, Karthik, you have about 5 minutes left in the talk.
Got it. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. There's just a couple of things I wanted to share after that. So I have referenced like all the things that a person needs to get started with a provider, build your own provider. I have referenced my provider as well as Spotify's actual documented provider and its HashiCorp Learn tutorial as well. People can go ahead and get started there. You can actually win a spot if you use the provider that was documented by Terraform in Spotify right now. I believe once you create a playlist and you actually share it with the hashtag hash Spotify, you actually get a chance to win a T-shirt. I guess. I implore you guys to go try it out, build your own providers, and interact with Terraform more. It's really fun for me, and I think it will be fun for you as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I guess now I'm open to questions.
Oh, yeah, we have like 4 minutes or so we can talk about this. I think one of the things that I would like to bring up, Karthik, is that this is you're actually building a provider. Like in most cases, users may not build a provider; they'll just use the one that's published in the registry. And of course, like using Terraform is very different from building for Terraform. So maybe talk about some of the differences there.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, we actually have pretty much I guess providers for all the major cloud providers and their resources and data sources. So that is already built in, so that most people, I guess, who are watching the stream themselves are more focused on using Terraform. But in certain cases, wherein you have your own internal application for your organization, and that, for example, let's say it's a service ticket management system, right? Or a help desk management, like people go ahead and create tickets and track it, things like that. So those things are still in most organizations, if they are internal to their own and they develop their own, they actually have to be managed. Like people have to go and request someone, send a mail to a support desk. They go ahead and create a ticket, then you go ahead and track it. So it's pretty much a hassle. So let's take those examples. So those are some scenarios where Terraform can actually provide a lot more use rather than our traditional infrastructure use cases. You can, as long as you have the API for your help desk, you can build a provider out of it. So when a person actually wants to create a ticket, they can go ahead and create a ticket via Terraform, and then apply it. So this actually goes and create tickets on the help desk. People can monitor it. Once they update it, you can actually go ahead and track it. So those things save time. You don't actually need the manual process of it. It still gets automated. So wherever you want automation to come into play and wherever providers are not available, I guess people can obviously go and try and use it. And so the reason I chose Spotify itself is that it's not an industrial aspect of it. So we are not actually using it in an organization level. It's just something that's fun to build and use it for a personal level. So there are a lot of things that you can build with Terraform, and it's only it's just I guess it's as the same any aspect of any tool. It's just it's limited to your imagination itself. One thing I did find different from obviously building Terraform and using Terraform is a widely different area. One that I found different was that you need to have a solid understanding of Go, and you just need to go through providers that you're already using. If you want to get an idea of what providers are and how they work, go through what you're actually using in your organization right now. Let's say it's AWS provider. Go through and see how an AWS provider actually positions the resource, how its lifecycle manages. For example, an S3 bucket might get replaced if you are changing some of its attributes. Go and see why that particular aspect happens, and if it's because of the API or if it's because of something a nuance that's implemented by Terraform. So once you understand a life cycle of a single resource is enough, and from the start to the end of a life cycle of single resource, how it's written in Terraform code, that will give us it's pretty much extensible from that. It's building on top of that. So that gives you your overall idea of how Terraform providers are built. There might be some more things that you may need to know along the way, but it's good enough to get you started. So that's how I did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Karthik. This was a really informational talk. I really enjoy talks that, kind of push the limits when it comes to the provider building. And, people have made some really interesting providers like the Domino's pizza provider or like the, like the Jira provider or something. So